What's up, everybody? How y'all doing? We are back with Process of Elimination. This is trying to remember where we left off last time. We had gone into the secret basement of the little house that we were supposed to meet up with all the other detectives on, and we found Senior Detective murdered. This is my first time witnessing a murder scene in person. Saika's death is seared in my mind, but this is different. Someone I know lies torn to pieces in a vivid sea of blood, dead. I'm no great detective, and although I tried to steel myself, coming face to face with a scene like this has me too weak to stand. Even once I regain my footing, my legs still struggle to remain upright. The metallic stench of fresh blood is one I'll never be able to get used to. I breathe through my mouth as much as possible. If I had the choice, I'd sprint out of this room this very second. Workaholic detective ignores me as he investigates the corpse with meticulous efficiency. He and the victim must have been well acquainted. His pained look when he found the body suggests that his mental burden is far greater than mine. Yet despite that, he shows no sign of weakness. How much experience solving homicides would it take to become a detective like him? I can't even fathom it, the way I am now. The other detectives who have been summoned by Doleful are unable to hide their shock at this sight. What's the big idea here? I thought Pops was supposed to have made it. Did he get offended? Did he get offed while... Offended, fuck me. Did he get offed while we were rushing over here? That's like so sad. It's not even funny. But that doesn't make any sense. We arrived at the manor 20 minutes after Senior Detective's message. For someone to chop up a body to this extent, hide the weapon, and escape in that amount of time, it's scientifically impossible. This level of blood loss would preclude livor mortis, and rigor mortis hasn't even set in. I may be stating the obvious since he called us just prior, but the state of coagulation indicates that he was called less than half a day ago. Oh my god. I cannot read. I cannot actually read. He was killed less than half a day ago. Let's re-establish the order of events. Senior contacted us at 12:40. We then split into teams and headed to Gormangast from Snarks. Since we arrived right at 1300, we can safely assume the crime occurred in the 20 minutes it took to travel from the facility to the manor. Question, teacher. Isn't there a chance that the criminal could have, booked it before we left Snarks? Not at all. We headed to Gormangast as soon as Senior contacted us. Had the killer tried to escape, we'd have surely seen them en route. Thus the killer must have been within the manor when we arrived. I can hoof it for days, but it'd still take me 10 minutes to run down the hill to the facility. Your theory checks out. So the key question is the perpetrator still inside? Let's consider the time frame for when they could have made their escape. We found incompetent in the entrance hall and spoke for a time, then made our way upstairs 15 minutes later. So around 1:15. Can we put this into Western clock times? I hate the 24-hour clock. After that, thanks to Rowdy and Techie, we discovered a hidden passageway at 1:34. You can see the entire entrance hall from the corridor before the hidden passage, so escaping undetected would be a challenge. If the killer was in the manor, their only chance to escape would be the 20 minutes we spent investigating the second floor. Ergo, it is highly probable that they are, in fact, still within the manor. Wait, you spent 20 minutes searching the upper floor and you think that... Couldn't they have escaped in that 20 minutes? Am I crazy? Wouldn't 20 minutes, thank you, be more than enough time to slip away? You could make it outside easily enough, but the real problem comes after the fact. There's only one path from here to Snark's and no place to hide. The jig would be up if you were to be seen from a window. Simply isn't realistic. Exactly. I actually made a point of checking out the windows, but I didn't see anything or anyone suspicious. Thank you for answering my question. I also don't like how my theory is also put by the guy who's nicknamed Incompetent. So, yeah. Hold up, no one's in the entrance hall right now. Isn't that, kind of sketch? Like, they could totally escape whenever. That's perfectly alright. The chief is heading over from Snark's as we speak. If the killer tries to flee now, they're certain to get caught before they make it down the mountain path. Which means the foul slayer does indeed still lurk within these walls. Alright then. In that case, let's head back up on the double. Excuse me. It's time for a good old-fashioned manor mouse hunt. Just a moment. There's a more viable method than hiding out in the manor for all this time. Workaholic points directly at me, drawing the focus for the other detectives. Incompetent. If you're the killer, then there is no issue regarding the timing. It would all be entirely feasible. Huh? My voice cracks as I'm caught completely off guard. Me? The killer? How does that make any sense? It's simple. All you'd need to do is hack up Senior, then lie in the entrance hall faking unconsciousness. Easily done in 20 minutes. If the culprit was unable to escape the manor, we can only assume that said culprit is you. What are you saying? There's no way I could chop someone apart in 20 minutes. Not to mention all the wires that were set up in the underground passage. How would I have gotten past those? I raised my voice in protest without thinking. Even with Armor and Doleful's help, getting through that passage took 5 minutes. It's hard to imagine anyone like me with no special traits making it through so quickly. Here's the real conundrum. I figure you use some sort of trick. At any rate, I doubt it's necessarily impossible. What do you mean? Listen closely. Can you hear the voices above us? He's right. If I strain my ears, I can pick up sounds coming from the ceiling. Where are they coming from, though? We should be the only people inside the manor right now. In terms of layout, our current location is directly beneath the entrance hall. I presume that what we're hearing is the chief arriving at the manor. Because this basement is likely a hiding spot, there may be extra space between the floorboards so that noise can drift in from above. Now that he mentions it, my eyes spot gaps in the ceiling where light is filtering through. As Workaholic said, it must be coming from the entrance hall above us. Regardless, the rooms are vertically adjoined. One could greatly reduce the time required to move between them by means of some gimmick. You could say, tamper with the floor of the entrance hall, creating a gap wide enough for a person to slip through the basement ceiling. Workaholic's relentless reasoning leaves me overwhelmed. Even if there is a gap, there's no way someone my size could fit through. Still, he's right about one thing. The entrance hall and the basement are awfully close together. How can I possibly clear my name, now that we know it's possible to move between them? Why are you jumping to some major conclusions here? It's not like you can prove there isn't a hole connecting the ceiling to the entrance. See, that's... I don't know, maybe it's because I'm an American, and the concept of that is weird to me, of proving a negative. There are ways to prove a negative, but the only way to prove a negative is by proving the absence of a positive. Does that make sense? You know, if I say the ball is blue, the only way to prove that it isn't blue is to find the ball and show that it's orange. You know, well, but did we prove that it isn't blue? how to phrase it. We prove that it isn't blue by proving that it is orange. This probably sounds really confusing and like I'm splitting hairs here, but again, it's the concept of the American legal system, how we focus on positive proof, as in you have to prove that something is something, not that something isn't something, because that proving something isn't something is actually harder than proving that it is something. I don't know. Maybe I'm using shit examples and I'm dumb, but I'm sorry if that that made absolutely no sense to anybody. It made sense in my brain, but your whole probatio diabolica bit is just bullying him into a corner. Like, talk about a total mood killer. Lady Downtown has the right of it. So long as any such gimmick remains hidden, your accusation is out of the question. I like how his eyes on the left side of his helmet kind of move. It's very anime, which, you know, works for this style. Perchance my plasma knuckles, capable of winning any bout, could make such a hole, but still. Punched out hole wouldn't close back up anyway. First things first, is it even possible to dismember an adult male to this extent within 20 minutes? Even if the killer themselves is male, they would need an extremely deft hand at amputation to pull off something like that. Well, sorry if this seems morbid. I mean, if you go at the right spots with the right weapon, you know, so say you had an axe and you were hacking at, and I'm not talking about like a hand axe, like I'm talking like a wood chopping axe. You know, you have a wood chopping axe and you're going at the joints. I mean, I could assume you could probably dismember a human body in 20 minutes. Although again, they're saying to this extent, we haven't seen the full body of that, like how dismembered is he. So I mean, I'm assuming you probably could, but there's a few issues that, like they said, he has 20 minutes, and the method that I'm suggesting would be extremely messy. So, and like I said, would require a pretty hefty tool. So where's the axe or tool used for dismemberment? Where are the bloody clothes or things that I use to keep my clothes from getting bloodied up? Yeah, you could in 20 minutes, probably, but to then be able to hide the method and, like I said, and then clean up it's unthinkable. Not like you need to skin him or bleed him out. Any hunter could do it. Hell, if it would have been a snap if I was the crook. It would have been a snap if I was the crook. So it's safe to assume you're the culprit then. I just bet I could is all. There'd be no time to deal with all the spurting blood anyhow. Thank you. Actually, I'd say there was. Workaholic probably shares my thoughts on that. So you noticed as well. It's true. One could dismember a body in a short span of time if they use those wires we encountered. As he speaks, Workaholic holds up a blood-drenched wire. Oh, that's unpleasant as it is. I'm reminded of how easily Doleful Detective's leg was cut earlier. You mean someone used this wire on Senior Detective? Yes. In fact, it's possible that Senior Detective was already wrapped up in these wires when he got in contact with us. He may have done so under duress, after which the wires were pulled, slicing him into pieces. All that remains then is for the culprit to escape. I chanced on one of the wires again when I went to get the others. My foot happened to slip on it since it was coated in blood. Based on the amount of blood, it's clearly not the same wire you first encountered. The killer must have anticipated us getting past the wires in the passage and discarded it on the floor there. Or perhaps the killer himself set the traps in order to hide the murder weapon. Okay, but then we run into another trying to think how to phrase this. We run into another kind of snag. Okay. So we don't have to discard anything heavy and conspicuous like an axe. Okay, we have to discard that wire. Okay, like you said, easy enough in a hallway full of those wires. But the person setting up all the wire traps, that's gonna still take some time, and in the span of 20 minutes, which isn't that long. Although, I mean, now we have to understand how long would it take for those wires to dismember somebody. Plausible that they could have set it up, but I think it's overly complicated. I think the easier solution is that senior detectives set them up. Either way, we have no other recourse but to suspect incompetent for now. Speak up if you have any objections. Objection! I didn't do it! I shout on impulse. Regret fills me almost immediately. I'd say the same thing if I was guilty. That's what anyone in my shoes. I refuse to believe incompetent did it. But that's all the more reason for us to find out what really happened. Agreed. Workaholic fixes me with a steely look. I want to speak up, but don't know what to say. I've reached my limits for processing all of these theories. There's no room for me to make my own deductions. Hold up. Ain't the idea of incompetent being the perp a bit too, I don't know, far-fetched? You ask me, we got the wrong guy here. Do you have evidence to support this? I'd like to know why you don't suspect him. Call it a gut feeling. Yeah, I'm usually dead on the money with these sort of things. That's downright scientifically impossible. We need to base our investigation on solid proof and logic. Back off, Poindexter. You're looking for a fight. Okay, time out. No more fighting, guys. You're like seriously harshing my vibe. But that little punk was the one who... Look, it's not like Teki said he full-on suspects incompetent or whatever. Am I right? Precisely. I simply believe it's too early to confirm or deny that hypothesis. We can't rule out either conclusion yet. The culprit could have fled, but they could also still be inside the building. Oh, sorry about that. I might have got ahead of myself there. Again. Workaholic detective claps his hands, interrupting the discussion. It appears we have a number of opinions. I'm going to the entrance hall to meet the chief. Let's investigate this individually after that. Halt, Sir Workaholic. We have many a detective assembled here. Ought we not join forces and confront this case together? Perhaps, but even in this short amount of time, our conflicting opinions have already come to light. Each of us seeks to tackle this case through a starkly different approach. Collaborating in these conditions would only work against us. I concur. I'll proceed with my investigation in my own way, calmly and scientifically. What's that glare? You got a bone to pick with me or something? I already apologized. At the end of the day, I'm human. I'm gonna get where I need to by following my heart. That alone ought to disqualify you from this line of work. Like hell, it's all over once a detective forgets what it means to be a human. Oh my god, just cool it already. I literally just asked you not to fly off the handle. Downtown does her best to intervene as Rowdy shouts at Teki. Doleful stands beside the three of them, flustered and directionless, as Armor and Workaholic continue their heated debate. Doesn't seem like the investigation is going to start anytime soon. Just like Workaholic said, everyone's playing this by their own rules, so no one is taking the lead. Everyone. I want to suggest we all work together, but the words die in my throat. There's no way I could be so bold when I'm the prime suspect. I know that, and yet I feel like I need to say something. My fist clenches. Unlike me, each of the detectives here has their own talents and strengths. It's my incompetence that really drives home how amazing they are. But that's exactly why I need to speak up now. Now's not the time for arguing, wouldn't you say? I chime in, but my voice comes out softly that nobody hears me. Together, these detectives could solve any case, and yet here they are arguing. That angers me far more than being a suspect. I failed to save someone again, even though Senior was so close by. What's the point of being a detective if all I can do is sit around and watch these things happen? My self-loathing mounts as I listen to them bicker amongst each other. My position in the situation doesn't matter. What happens to me isn't as important as getting these detectives to work as a team. Everyone, please listen. The other detectives turn to face me. Naturally, they all look rather dubious. I falter for a moment, but desperately push on. I know a lot of you suspect me. That's fine. There's a lot to suspect, and I understand that. But, can't you all at least try to cooperate? Cooperate? That's a tall order. Our personal modes of investigation are hardly compatible. I'm always down for a collab, but, you're kinda asking for the impossible right now. I mean, we couldn't even agree on whether or not you're the prime suspect. Excuse me. That's why I want everyone to agree on what direction to take. What direction to take? That's right. Although I'm too tense to make a proper response, I force my voice out, trying to be as bold as I give the detectives my suggestion. Please, proceed with your investigation under the assumption that I did it. If you start there, you'll be less likely to have any more arguments like this one, right? The detectives fall silent. Maybe telling them to suspect me was too brazen a move after all. Is your head screwed on wrong or something? After all the effort we spent defending you, you got the guts to ask to be the suspect? Have you lost your goddamn marbles? I beseech you not to give up, Sir Incompetent. What has become of your resolve? I'm not giving up. It's not that I want to be the main suspect here, but it'd be even worse if the investigation stalled out because of me. I'm staking my safety on your deductive reasoning. I raise my voice with all my strength, my trembling hands balled into fists. I trust all of you far more than my own incompetence. If you work together, I know the truth will come out. I'm sure you'll prove I didn't do it. The detectives silently take in my words. Not one of them speaks up. They all simply stare at me incredulous. I guess my suggestion was overstepping my bounds. I've only made them all even more distrustful of me. But I don't regret it. I'd much rather have these outstanding detectives suspect me than continuing arguing in vain. So you insist that because we're on the case, we'll end up proving you aren't the culprit. Such words make one feel blessed to be a detective. Isn't that right, ladies and gentlemen? I hear a cold, beautiful voice behind me. My breath catches as I turn around. Just how should we respond when a suspect gives a statement like that? Continue to argue, never to find any common ground? Or take action swiftly and promptly? I eagerly await your answer. Her hair is as white as snow, her gleaming eyes purple like hydrangeas, her skin smooth with features like a porcelain doll. Are we going to ignore that her eyes are kind of gray? But, whatever. At our back stands a far from ordinary girl. The others are visibly thrown off by her arrival. It's clear that she stands out even among these prominent detectives. Chief, why are you here? I specified that I would meet you at the entrance. Why, the entrance when you arrived? You truly believe I would wait idly by when my dear friend, senior detective, has been murdered? Out of the question. I left our colleagues to themselves and went ahead on my own. Okay, you know what? Now I kind of see the purple in her eyes. I still think they're more gray, but it's a very dull purple. The girl workaholic called Chief speaks without a hint of timidity. Footsteps sound out from the passageway. Evidently, the other detectives followed her lead, heading to this room. We never told you about this basement, did we? We figured it'd be better that way, so no one would get hurt inside the tunnel. I noticed an echo beneath my feet upon entering, so I placed my ear to the floor, and what should I hear but your voices? From there, I deduced the general layout and discovered the secret path that had been left open. Hardly a mystery, really. The chief shares her amazing feats as though they were simply a matter of course. We worked so hard to find this underground room. Well, you left the door open, so it's super hard to find a secret passage with the door open. No wonder the others look shocked. Oh, sorry. Tee-hee. I startled as the girl gives me a smile. Compared to how she treats the others, her gaze on me feels more personal. No, I'm probably mistaken. I must be. So, you're the newcomer I've been hearing about. I am Ideal Detective. I lead the team working to stop the quartering the quartering Duke. Your spirited appeal earlier was admirable. I'm expecting much of you. So keep at it, and never hesitate to share your thoughts. I apologize for losing my composure just now. Once the other detectives arrive, I'll brief you all on the situation and give my impressions. Thank you, workaholic. That would be much appreciated. But first, allow me to clear up a certain misconception you seem to be laboring under. Each and every member of the Quartering Duke investigation is a suspect. You, I, or any of us have the means to carry out this murder. What? Commotion erupts as the detectives speak over each other, which of course is unsurprising. Other than me, nobody else was in the manor at the time the senior detective died. On top of that, this murder required enough time for a full dismemberment. In what possible way could he have been killed? Ideal Detective has only just arrived here, but her hydrangea eyes glimmer like gems, as if they've picked up on something. The outline of the case is clear. All that remains is for us to pool our efforts and ascertain the reality of the situation. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I do believe it's time to make our reprisal. Soon enough, the other detectives join us at the scene. God damn it, Senior. To think your time would come so soon. Just how many trials does the Lord expect to endure? I vow that I, Mystic Detective, shall send the culprit straight to hell. Mark my words, Quartering Duke. The flames bellow hot. You weren't even close to Senior Detective, the girl said, coldly stating the facts. You mustn't mock our bond, Bookie. Members of the DA are spiritually bound, soulmates. The extent of our interactions is irrelevant. Repulsive spiritual intimacy aside, I concur the Quartering Duke must pay, the girl said, fist shaking at the thought of her adversary. A middle-aged man in anachronistic... Yeah, I'm going with anachronistic Western garments, and a black-haired girl clutching a hardcover book approached the body, chanting. Or chatting. Fuck me. The man has the... I don't know that word. Mine of a seasoned veteran. The girl, on the other hand, looks around 10. It doesn't flinch at the sight of a corpse. Both of them must be experienced detectives. I, Posh Detective, ranked number 5 in the DA, have already arrived at the crux of this mystery. The woman dressed so elegantly that she looks so out of place jabs a finger at me. Our culprit is the commoner found unconscious, incompetent detective. The hastily hidden knife on the second floor proves he was unable to escape. Ah, dear me, there I go again, demonstrating my incredible acumen. Perhaps it's time I took the reins as chief instead. Now hold on a moment. Didn't Ideal reject that theory just now? I beg your pardon. Her theory is the one that's utter hogwash. I'm sure, isn't that right, gourmet detective? The woman called Posh Detective speaks to someone in a motorcycle suit. Really, you're going to call that a motorcycle suit? I think Cleavage Detective works better, but whatever. Who smiles as if she's enjoying herself. I wonder about that. Anyway, I don't smell Renegade lingering around. Where did he go? Snack break? Upon arriving, he decided to abstain, stating that this case didn't interest him. I imagine you'll find him napping in the first floor living room. Napping? No senior, a legend in our field, has been killed? Why, I never. Just what is that man thinking? Renegade's non-conforming nature is his strong suit. I'm sure he'll pull his talents to use later on, so let's leave him be for now. Lenient leadership like this is why high-ranking agents defy your orders. Classified and detective gentlemen didn't even deign to show up. On the honor of the Pinkerton name, I swear that I will wrest the title of chief from you. Ideal Detective doesn't flinch and merely smiles at Posh Detective's belligerence. Thank you, Posh. Zealous subordinates such as yourself allow me to plunge into my work without fear despite the risks. Should the enemy ever succeed in removing me from the front lines, I entrust the Detective Alliance to you. I'll thank you not to speak of such ominous things. Your achievements far surpass mine. Nothing of the sort could ever happen. I shall supplant your position by my own merits. Be sure of it, my destined rival. Workaholic explains the situation to those who arrive from the facility. Once he's finished, Ideal addresses us. As you can see, Senior, believed to be the last surviving member of the Detective Alliance from Detective Alliance headquarters, has been murdered, which means, in all likelihood, that the perpetrator is a part of the DA as well. Tensions rise across the room. Some detectives look at each other, while others turn their gazes at me. It doesn't seem like they're going to stop suspecting me anytime soon. That common pleb simply must be the killer. My highborn brain cells reassure me so. I agree. Rationally speaking, no one but incompetent could be the culprit. His story is dubious from A to Z. You two are of common birth. Your words ring true. I grant you leave to sing my praises, Workaholic Detective. Loud and clear. I wasn't actually praising you. Let's begin by clearing up the most fundamental misapprehension. Incompetent Detective is no intruder. I personally invited him to our meeting as a formal member. You personally invited him? But why? Workaholic addresses the elephant in the room. Even I'm hearing this for the first time. I have no idea what she intends for me. As if sensing my confusion, Ideal's eyes meet my own. Those hydrangea-hued irises implore me to trust her. Simple, really. I wish to have the person I trust most at my side. He may not remember, but he once saved my life. I consider his potential abilities to be no less than extraordinary. I requested that Senior Detective invite him to the island, but I didn't anticipate his methods would involve kidnapping and confinement. Workaholic Detective. Excuse me. Workaholic Detective's mouth hangs open as Ideal Detective casually explains the unexpected. Which makes sense. This is an extreme mixture of business and private affairs. I can tell he's in no state to even begin questioning her. Not to mention, I'm quite surprised myself. I saved her life, but we've only just met. I have more questions than I can count, but at the very least, this does make me seem a bit less suspicious. Now's not the time to make any clumsy comments, so I stay quiet and let Ideal Detective take the floor. Is that really it? Something smells fishy to me. It's true, they say your nose is unmatched. But please, suspect away. There's nothing to feel guilty about. So, if Incompetent isn't the killer, who is? All of us save for Incompetent were in the research facility when Senior got in touch. So, we were all away from the scene. Excellent question, Doleful. That very occurrence is what caused you all to suspect Incompetent, correct? That was the culprit's first trap. Senior Detective's message was not, in fact, sent from down in this basement. But Senior Detective was unquestionably killed here just after making contact, wasn't he? The girl asked the chief with full sincerity. Okay, so I get it. She speaks as if she's reading a book. That's cute. I have it. His spirit was compelled to contact us post-mortem, quite possible with the right voodoo ritual. Keep quiet, you occult-obsessed twit, snapped the girl, scolding the man for his useless comment. Naturally, Mystic is incorrect, but making the dead speak is a step in the right direction. I've tested it, and this basement has no signal. Contacting the outside simply isn't possible from in here. I beg your pardon? The other detectives pipe up in shock. Does this mean that Senior Detective was restrained somewhere other than the basement when he made contact? It can't be right. There were 20 minutes between the message being sent and the detective's arrival at the manor. It would be impossible to drag someone down here, down that narrow wire-filled passage. Not to mention dismembering them in so short a time frame. It's a fact that Senior contacted us, no. If not from the basement, how else could he have done it? It's a simple trick, really, once you've thought it out. They recorded it and sent it later. Oh, that works. The culprit imitated Senior's voice, just as I am doing now. Ideal Detective sounds just like Senior Detective as she speaks. If my eyes were closed, I may have well mistaken her for the man himself. She's that skilled at impersonating him. Vocal mimicry, That's certainly a possibility if the killer is the kind of person I imagine them to be. Vocal mimicry. I've heard about this historical skill from my mentor. It originated from Edo period theater. He told me how there were established modes of practice, and that in the DA, where disguises often come in handy, many were experts in the art. Though, I doubt I could ever master it, no matter how hard I tried. Is that why you're so certain that the culprit is part of the Detective Alliance? If a traitor lurks in our midst, then the massacre at Snark's would be plausible enough, as would the idea of a fake message from Senior Detective. Such criminal acts would be feasible for another detective, paradoxically, increasing the odds that one is indeed the culprit. Exactly. A mere intruder killing 22 research facility detectives would be inconceivable. This was most assuredly an inside job. We were unable to control our turmoil when we discovered the bodies in the facility, and so did the traitor among us bide their time. The killer would have an easy time manipulating us through a call, a far easier time than slipping up through the ceiling to the entrance hall. Hold up. I don't care how cool detectives are. No way they can just copy people's voices. Verily, my training earned me mighty thews, yet my vocal cords remain middling at best. Such mimicry is out of the question. I'll concede that it couldn't normally be done, but we are facing someone who easily slew a dozen of our comrades. No normal killer, to be sure. If we are professionals in logic and reason, then our opponent is a specialist in homicide. 1 or 2 impossible feats would hardly faze them. Don't let your perception limit your perspective. Bodily alterations, unfeasible acts, a murderous fiend will stop at nothing to achieve their aims. Both of them fall silent at Ideal Detective's words. Her persuasiveness holds a weight that brooks no argument. If that phone message was falsified, Chief, then by the time we received it, Senior was... Precisely. He was already dead. Or at least in no state to speak. The culprit used the call to tamper with the chronology of the crime. So the dismembered body is meant to make us think this was done by the quartering Duke, as well as distort the time of the death. How ingenious. My desperate apologies for allowing the killer's ploy to deceive me. It would seem I still have much more to learn. Workaholic hangs his head. Ideal smiles gently at him before continuing to speak. The culprit set up Senior's death in here and fled with his D-pad. Then, per their plan, they contacted me as we investigated Snarks. In doing so, they summoned the DA members to the manor so that Senior's body would be discovered. Hold up, boss. We all heard the recording you made of old Senior's message, right? Is it even remotely scientifically possible that none of us would have noticed his voice wasn't the same? That would be due to the peculiarities of the human memory. The human brain excels at recalling visuals, but struggles to do the same with linguistic and auditory information. Because of this, it's uncommon for people to be incapable of identifying a caller on the phone, even if it's someone they know well. Well, mix that with the fact that phone calls, or the voice you hear in a recording or on a phone call isn't necessarily the sound of your own voice, because it has been processed and digitally replicated. So, in theory, it also wouldn't, if it sounded different, you just naturally assume it's because of the phone. They often say that a client's name is easier to remember when associated with a voice or face. Things grow hazier with words and sound alone. Yeah, sometimes once you hear a person's name on the phone, your memory makes the connection with their voice. Same diff. Bank transfer scams are a prime example. The scammer begins by providing the caller's name, so you fall for it even if their voice doesn't match. You end up convincing yourself that any oral discrepancies are a result of a poor connection. Speaking of, Old Man Senior's message was, totally screwy with static. I could barely hear him. Was that just a cover-up? Likely so. The whole thing seems contrived. If you knew all this, then why respond for the summons? Dispatching detectives to follow the whims of a killer? The gall. Because I wanted to believe it was him. For the first time, Ideal Detective's expression grows dark and serious. If the culprit was impersonating Senior, it meant he couldn't speak. It meant I would never see him alive again. That was why I decided to split our forces in two, all the while hoping that Senior still lived. By virtue of their self-defense expertise, I sent Armor and Rowdy to the manor, in case there were any traps. But as you can tell, my conjecture was right on the mark. I've never detested my powers of insight as much as I do today. Her mirthless, sorrowful laughter startles me. I realize now that those skillful at deductive reasoning can also foresee the grim future. Ideal Detective predicted the death of her friend. The pain she's feeling must be greater than I can even imagine. However, a detective's job is not to lament tragedies, but to unravel the truths behind them and reverse their bleak outcomes. Our 23 murdered comrades will not go unavenged. On this, you have my word. Ladies and gentlemen, I call upon your aid. If all 13 of us combine our efforts, I know for a fact that we can stop the Quartering Duke. I realize that everyone else is silent, each of them listening intently to the ideal detective, to what ideal detective is saying. It's incredible to think that they were all arguing just moments ago. In such a short amount of time, the strength of her abilities and resolve has gained the trust of her fellow detectives. Now, without further ado, there's something I'd like all of us to investigate. I'll send the details via the D-pad. For now, please go where instructed. I have a vague sense of what really happened here. By the time you finish, the truth should take shape and reveal itself before us. Ladies and gentlemen of the Detective Alliance, let us reverse this tragedy. On that note, I think this is a good place to call it quits. We're at a little over 45 minutes, and my voice is starting to get a little scratchy. Getting a little uncomfortable to talk. I love visual novels, but man, reading them on camera is a pain. Thank you so much for watching. As always, everybody, we'll be back with more in the next one. But until then, you can find me over on social media, all linked in the description. Please hit that like button, hit the little bell next to the subscribe button. Subscribe if you're not already, and stay up to date with everything that's going on here on the channel. We just recently started Star Wars Jedi Survivor. It is really fun so far, so please go check out the first couple videos that are up. And I think that's about all I got for you, so I will see you all in the next one. But until then, I'm out.